here. I hope you're all staying safe and well, and welcome to the Citizen channel. And a little moments in time today. We're going to go back in time, even before I was born. So we're going back a long way. If you listen to most of you, I don't believe you, but we're going back to 1947. Yeah, just a couple of years after the war. Two seasons in after the break for the war, obviously. And we're going back to a City United game at Maine Road, an interesting one because we both played there at the same time during those years after the war. We kindly let them rent it off us, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So we're going to have a look at September the 20th, 1947. Significant actually in the fact that it was actually the longest period between a derby between City and United. Obviously had the war intervening, but obviously both clubs had sort of messed around in the first and second divisions. So yeah, it was and it was a significant date and a significant time in the evolution of both clubs actually as well. Sadly not so great for City and a lot better for them, but we'll have a chat about it anyway. City versus United, September the 20th 1947. Please, if you're new to the channel, push that subscribe button, push the bell notifications to get notifications, get to know about all these City vlogs, past and present, lots of stuff on there. And you'll also see stuff on my film and TV channel, and there'll be links on screen for things like Facebook and Twitter. So if you're a friend or follow me on there, do try and check every couple of days and friend and follow everyone back on there. So that'd be fantastic. Please, all your comments. I mean, obviously, there may be guys out there who sort of remember this time or have been told about this time by the dads and the granddads and stuff like that, as I say. But yeah, any comments, please let me know. And of course, all thumbs ups are very welcome. Yeah, I mean, I've started this, but this is actually the oldest programme I've got purely because City kindly reprinted it and stapled it to the middle of a City United match in 1986. So that's the 1986 programme. 26th of October 1986. A 1-1 draw that game. We're not talking particularly about this one. Another relegation season for City, unfortunately, but there you go. Yeah, in the middle you had little staples there. You're very careful with it, but literally up till yesterday when I did this, it was actually stapled inside that programme. But obviously now I've actually got the programme and taken it out to make use of it. And say only, what is it, 8 pages? But yeah, a thing of its time. This is volume 42, number 5. There you go. So yeah, so that's the basis. I always try and find a basis for these little vlogs and stuff, and that's my basis for this. Of course, as I said, this was the second full season since World War II. There's been no derby in the 1946-47 season. City had restarted in the second division after being relegated in 1937-38. More on that in a second. Yeah, I mean, United themselves, I have to talk about them. We're talking about City United. Had pre-war been in the second division for a little while and were possibly at their lowest point in history. They were relegated in season 1930-31. Their average home gate at that time, 12,155. There you go. And in fact, in 1934-35, it's not something I sort of knew but forgot. They nearly went down to the old Division 3 in those days, which is the third tier that we obviously spent a season in as well. Obviously later history, but they almost went down. But by beating Millwall at Millwall on the last day of the season, they managed to stay up, and Millwall went down. So it was quite a low ebb for United. They did win promotion then back in 35-36, but they only spent one season in the top division and then were relegated again. Of course, the same season that City won their first ever title, the 1936-37 season. As far as football is concerned, you say the 30s, then City looked on the up and up again. Don't forget we had a little FA Cup win in that decade as well. And City were clearly, even though United had edged City on trophy wins, United had literally won 2 league titles and an FA Cup to City's 1 league title, 1 FA Cup by the late 30s. So it was very close, nip and tuck if you like. But more or less, Manchester was sort of City with the team. There's no doubt about it. I'm not being sort of bragging for the sake of bragging. City with the team, still the team, and I've been for quite a while. But obviously, by that last 2 seasons, we didn't probably know it, or they didn't know it at the time. But by those last 2 seasons before the war, the Second World War, things were sort of set to change. And of course, we unbelievably shot ourselves in the foot. Typical City. I think this is where most people say these sayings came from when we got relegated in the season after winning the title. So we won it in 36-37. And of course, we got relegated the season after. But there you go. So it wasn't the greatest time to get relegated. As I say, we didn't. Obviously, we had one season before war broke out, and obviously we didn't manage to get back up at a first attempt. So when the war intervened, City were in the second division, and then United actually gained promotion from the second division. So as war broke out, United were back in the first division, and City sadly were back in the second division. Not a total disaster at that time, but all looked okay after the war, after the intervention of the war. City was still popular, the crowds were still coming to Maine Road, but United won back their City won back their first the first division status after the war at the first attempt, so it wasn't too bad. We didn't have to dawdle very long in the second division, but we will see the 40s started. The things started to change. We would see the 40s sort of more belong to United, and unfortunately, the balance of power would begin to change, and obviously it changed for a long time, didn't it? Well, there you go for the foreseeable future. Anyway, from the 40s onwards, even though City obviously did have bright moments, of course. While City went about winning promotion in the 46-47 season, United were battling for the Division 1 title. They did a lot of that in the 40s. They were in 46-47, they were battling with Liverpool for it. And although losing out by a point, they had a young manager called Matt Busby, who had some great players there. And they were playing at Maine Road, weren't we? We let them have Maine Road after the war because of bomb damage. I think it was a £5,000 rent and then a proportion of the gate receipts. But so it gave them the ability, actually, as in those days, fans weren't as partisan as they became 60s, 70s, 80s onwards, and obviously many City fans had the opportunity, who perhaps hadn't bothered going to Old Trafford on the other side of Manchester, had the opportunity to watch them. So they begin to attract new fans within that, and they were getting good crowds as well. Don't forget that first season after the war, United were actually in the first division, playing the first division team, so they could probably attract a bigger crowd than City, who were playing not the not so popular second division teams. So although City's crowds were good, United found themselves with a bigger Main Road to play in, a bigger catchment, if you like. They got their own fans who loyally went across, and obviously they were finding a lot more City fans were actually bothering to watch them as well. So they found their crowds becoming better than ever. It's thought that when United moved back to Old Trafford in 1949, a chunk of fans who would have supported City at the time, it is believed. I mean, there's no surveys taken at the time, but it's well believed that a large chunk of City fans actually would then go back and watch United more at Old Trafford as well. They might have watched City at Main Road, but there was a big game at Old Trafford and United were playing, they would have gone across there and watched it. But there you go. But we go back a couple of seasons, back to the game on 20th of September 1947. The team's very last meeting at Maine Road before this was January the 9th, 1937. A 1-0 win for City, of course, in our title-winning season. This new match in 1947 was eagerly awaited. And going into it, City, although they'd only played 8 games, United played 7. City were actually above United in the league, just by 1 point, though. So it was a fairly close thing. In the programme, a guy called Eric Todd used to write in the programme. He wrote about previous meetings, which is interesting in itself. I might cover that on another vlog as such, but we've got a little column called Do You Remember? In this programme. I'll just take these off because I'm struggling to read the small print and the blue print and read this out to you. Well, this is it. City versus United. The match football enthusiasts from Whitefield to Wythenshawe, from Wilmslow to Worsley have been waiting for. 70,000 odd of them and thousands more who couldn't get tickets. While you are waiting for the kick-off, you can discuss your favourites' chances with your neighbour, but don't expect me to hazard a guess at the result. United will walk it, I can hear someone say. Aye, says another chap, and the United do well to get past City's defence, even if Swift is in Brussels. Both teams are at home, so ground advantage is discounted. My own experience of these derby games is that a draw is as safe as bet as any, but I'm not prepared to openly suggest this match will follow in that tradition. You can fight it out amongst yourselves. City, of course, will be without some of their regulars, but the team did well enough against Derby. Yeah, I think we beat those 3-2 in the previous game to this. Did well against Derby to suggest we shall see a close game, and that's as far as I'm going, said Eric Todd. He went on to say strong men fainted, and this is where he starts describing previous games. But it's interesting, just read the opening paragraph. This just shows the balance of power before the Second World War. So much for today. What of the past? Question mark. Most people will not need reminding that United and City have met on 33 occasions. City having won 15, United 11, and the rest being drawn. So City scored 60 against United's 57. So there you go. But that was quite an interesting bit on your stats. If you look at the stats now, obviously United are well ahead, aren't they? But obviously it's interesting, and that sort of backs up the fact that City was sort of regarded as the bigger team before the war. I mean, other news in this little programme, it's a great little read. Some of the adverts, you'll see them, I'll be putting them on screen as well as I'm going through it. I mean, Vice Chairman AEB Alexander, yes, not the newer Alexander, the older Alexander, was celebrating his 80th birthday. They're all going to have a party in Gatley. There you go, great fun there. City fans were getting reprimanded. The youngsters, apparently, they blamed the youngsters. They didn't blame the old guys, but they were booing the opponents when they come up at the end, when they came to either the Platt Lane end or the North Stand end. City fans were booing, and obviously were being reprimanded for giving a bad impression. I mean, there you go, for booing the goalkeepers and the team as they obviously lined up as he came out of the tunnel for the second half or the first half, whichever end it was, sort of thing. So that was a bit of a reprimand for City fans there. So nothing changes, does it? Fire had broken out. Yeah, there'd been a fire at Maine Road the previous week. And although the staff were quick to put it under control, they'd actually lost all the playing kit, and most of the training kits were destroyed. So there's a little shout out to local clubs if they could lend City any sort of clobber for the guys to play in, because they did say some of the players might be having to train in their birthday suits. That's how they put it in the programme, so that's quite. But of course, as far as the playing kit was concerned, our suppliers at the time were a firm called Humphrey Brothers, and a call went out to those, and apparently within an hour or two, a full set of kits was sent over to Maine Road to replace those that are lost in the fire. So very interesting stuff in there. The attendance, yeah, there was a little thing in the programme. I'm going to read a little thing now from the captain's memories in this 86 programme. Yeah, there was 71,364 was the actual crowd. I have seen 78,000 in another City publication, The Complete Record, which is, I think Gary James did that, but I don't know where that 78,000 came from. But yeah, they were saying only 68,000 actually turned up. So it was a ticket match, and obviously there was over 3,000, and they say in this article 4,000 actually fans. So they think a lot of guys bought them to try and sell them on, but obviously they couldn't manage to get a fair few quid out of them, so they lost out. So the crowd was perhaps lower than it should have been. And 71,364 watched a tense 0-0 draw. There is a brief match report in this 86 programme mentioning the missing fans. I'll just read from this. The print's a little bit better, so I'll leave my glasses on. It says here, attendance 68,000, you see. So obviously that 71,000 must include all the tickets sold rather than the actual attendance. And it does say in brackets, although a further 4,000 tickets have been sold. Very interesting, there's a discrepancy there. And as I say, 68,000 here. Gary James' Manchester City The Complete Record says 78,000. Maybe something missed in there. Just this little brief match report. Of course, we've got the captain's views. You'll see that on screen. Bert Sproston and Johnny Carey were the relevant captains for the game. There's a couple of great images you would have seen, or you've seen there, of them when they were young lined up, and obviously now in this 86 programme, a fantastic sort of look at the two captains. But the match report, City fielded 4 players who have been signed within the previous 12 months. Alec Thurlow deputising for Frank Swift away on international duty. Yeah, there's international duties always clashed, of course, and obviously international players had to go and play for the country rather than the club. Away on international duty with England in Belgium. Jackie Wharton from Preston. Roy Clark, the present social club manager. There we go. Obviously that was in 86, but Roy Clark was a big player for City there. And the latest acquisition, Irish blacksmith Eddie McMurran. United were at full strength. Charlie Mitten having returned from injury. The goalless game was generally uninspiring, although it did throw up some interesting personalities. City fullback Bert Sproston was outstanding in all departments of the game. keeping a tight rein on Mitten and finding time to set up attacks. And on the other flank, ex-United Junior, ex-United Junior, I don't know where that came from, Eric Westwood blotted Delaney out completely. Clark came the nearest to scoring for City when, after a superb twisting run, he forced Jack Crompton to make a brilliant fingertip save. Some great names, isn't there? Other players who received a special mention were Thurlow, Aston and Warner. John Aston, remember Johnny Aston? Where were the missing 4,000 fans? It was generally assumed that touts had got their hands on most of these tickets and had their fingers burned there overpricing them. Serves them right too. So yeah, an interesting article. Obviously, this 47 game United were once again challenged for the title. We finished bridesmaids a lot, but because this time Arsenal pipped them to it. But City had finished at least that season a respectable 10th back in the First Division. But it was United. It was United who were entertaining the main road crowds, our fans. It was United that were doing it, unfortunately. The second derby on the 7th of April, the same season, was a 1-1 draw, again at Main Road, of course, watched by a slightly larger crowd of 71,690, although it was United's home game. Perhaps a few more came over from Trafford, I'm not too sure. But yeah, United would taste glory. And win even more fans. And don't forget, the FA Cup was a big thing, wasn't it? And that season, although they were pipped to the title again, they actually won the FA Cup as well. So if you've watched any vlogs or you know anything about City, the FA Cup for a long time was just as important and attractive to the fans. In fact, more attractive to the fans than a league title. So yeah, we had to suffer that as well. So obviously these guys turning up at Main Road thinking, I'm not dyed in the wool City. So this United team look pretty good. We'll sort of might carry on following them back when they move back across to Old Trafford. And this is sadly what happened, unfortunately. Just as an example of the crowd, yeah, I mean, obviously at Main Road when United played Arsenal in the league, they were obviously it was going to be a big game. They were competing with them for the title, but there's a crowd of 81,962, which is obviously massive at Main Road. There are a few crowds over 80,000 in that period. Watch United v Arsenal, and then when City played Arsenal, admittedly at the end of the season when Arsenal had already won the title, so there was nothing hanging on it. There was a crowd of just 23,391, nearly, so over 3 times as much, almost 4 times. But that shows the level and what was happening at Main Road in those 3 years after World War II when we let United lend our ground. And I put down here, the worm had well and truly turned, and I think it had, hadn't it? I think this is the key to it. In United's last season at Main Road, before we kicked them out, we finally realised what was happening far too late. I mean, we could have let United play at Stockport County's ground, things like this, but being neighbourly, we'd let them have Main Road. In United's last season at Main Road, we finished again runners up again, this time to Portsmouth, and City had made a better fist of it, finishing 7th. But again, United's style, United's quality of play was winning over sort of the half and half fans at Main Road who just liked a good game of football. And they were averaging, again, about 50,000 for the second season, more or less running, depending which stats you look at for the second. And City were getting good crowds, but we weren't getting that sort of level, to be honest with you, because we weren't really competing at the very top and getting the attractive. We weren't quite as attractive, perhaps, as United to watch. So things were looking good at Main Road. And of course, by the time United had finally won another title, and didn't finish runners-up in 51-52, after again being runners-up in 50-51, the damage had been done. Yeah, I mean, United had moved back to Old Trafford. The crowds had actually dropped a little bit. I mean, they were getting bigger crowds at Main Road, but they did manage to carry on better in City's crowd consistently when they returned to Old Trafford, which was unusual. Say it had been a bit nip and tuck before the war, obviously. City spent another season, 50-51, in Division 2, so that didn't help, before finally themselves becoming a team to watch in the mid-50s. But United managed to stay just one step ahead, didn't they? They always seemed to do that, even up into the Swales era. They were always that one step ahead, and we didn't quite get back at them. On and off the pitch, as I say, it didn't matter. Off the pitch, it was City who on the pitch had become the plucky underdogs, and we just weren't quite as well run, unfortunately, off the pitch as well. Financially, this is it. This is the thing. Despite paying rent and a proportion of the gate receipts at Maine Road, of course, the larger crowds were getting allowed United to prosper financially, which put them on a pretty solid financial footing for their return to Old Trafford, which is not the same, sadly, could be said for City. They had a young, as I said, they had a young, energetic manager in Matt Busby, and an exciting team competing all the time. I mean, very rarely they weren't competing for league titles and doing well in the cups. And City's neighbourless would backfire. I say even the most pessimistic City fan at that derby back in 1947 couldn't possibly forecast the changes in fortunes perhaps coming over the next 20-30 years, as City did dabble with being up there and being big, but United consistently kept doing that. They did have the lows, of course they did, but I think the seeds have been sown, haven't they? But I think it's fair to say until quite recently, of course, City have never really covered, or never will really cover from the fan side of it, because obviously it's handed down from father to son, isn't it? So we're never going to catch up with crowds again or anything like that. And United have established themselves as the best supported team in the country. But yeah, it's certainly at that was, I think we can consider that period the turning point, in City and United, and looking back at that derby, it was a sort of catalyst, wasn't it, for what was going to happen in the future. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Just a little look back at where things perhaps went a little bit wrong for City, but hey, we've weathered it, didn't we? And things are looking a lot brighter now, and not so good for United, but these things go in cycles, don't they? So let's enjoy it while we can. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know any comments, any memories, anything you can think of that. Thanks for watching. What are you going to do the rest of the day? Have a great one. Look after yourselves, look after your friends, look after your families. More importantly, let's all look after each other. So we meet here again on the Citizen channel, or perhaps have a flit across, have a look at my film and TV channel. I only ask one thing. Please stay safe, Blues. Come on, City. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.